Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Rays Rewind with Bell, Bushman, and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome back in, everybody. It is the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Media Network. I am the great old Bushman, and as usual is my co-host Drew. Make sure to go to our YouTube page and hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell button as well too when new episodes drop. Hit us up on X at the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind. Welcome in, everybody. It's been a pretty awesome week and a half so far in Rays baseball. We'll go into the Rays taking a couple series to open up the year. Pitching looks good. Offense is chugging along there too. And also the Trop is going to be repaired. Yay! Drew, how's it going, man? It's been a while.
Great, man. Oh, yeah, no, it has been a while. We haven't done it in a couple weeks. And first podcast episode of the regular season. So I couldn't be happier, man. I'm so excited that baseball's back, and I know that today there was stadium news with the vote, but to repair the Trop. But I will say it's been so great being able just to watch baseball and not have to think about the stadium stuff. Issues. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about the series, and I know you went to a game at Steinbrenner in your experience, but everything seems to be so far so good with the Steinbrenner experience, and so it's just been nice to have like good baseball news as opposed to just stadium talk as being what we exist around as Rays fans. So I'm doing great, man, and I'm just glad the season's underway.
Yeah, so am I, man, and I think how they've been playing too is kind of been helping out a lot. They've been playing great baseball, and. Obviously we know. I mean, they playing two teams that aren't the greatest in the league so far, with the Rockies and then also the Pirates. But those are the teams that you want to beat. Those are the teams you want to open up the season and beat and get wins from instead of struggling against. Which the Rays have struggled against bad teams before. We saw that last year. But you and I talked about this before the season started. Is if everything gels, if the production is there, the pitching is there as well. Is it going to happen? And so far so good. With the subtraction of McClanahan in the rotation, which sucks. I think our pitching has done pretty well. I mean, they've looked good. I mean, they've with the exception of the game yesterday and also that middle game against the Rockies, pitching looks good. Even the Rockies game where we didn't score a run, pitching looked good too as well. So I mean, that's the step in the right direction that we've wanted to see is, how can they handle that with that McClanahan? They've handled that so far. And the offense looks pretty good too, as well. Now, would I like them to score more runs? Yes. I mean, everybody wants to see them score more than, the average number that they had. But, I think with the guys that we've wanted to see produce, Brandon Lau, he's been hitting the ball pretty well. Junior Camaro's been hitting the ball pretty well. Johnny DeLuca's been hitting the ball pretty well. So the production is there. Now, do I think the slow start for Yandy Diaz is a big deal? I don't think so. I mean, it's the start of the season. I mean, guys start off slow and then all of a sudden they hit their stride and then it's all forth the rest of the way. So I did cave. Well, I wouldn't say cave. I did cave in I got the FanDuel free month. But so I have FanDuel now. So I'm watching games when I can attend, but I'm probably going to keep it. So I'll probably pay $20 a month for the whole subscription.
So it's $20 a month for FanDuel.
Yeah.
So being out of market,
but it's the bundle. You get the Lightning games plus the Rays games.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Being out of market, I buy MLB TV. So I watch through that. So I've never had to deal with the Bally Sports FanDuel bundle.
I mean, so far so good. I mean, hasn't really been any glitches just yet. So
yeah,
that's
that's $20 a month. That's kind of pricey, but whatever. They're charging quite a bit. I mean, MLB
Yeah.
TV I think is like 139, 149 for the season.
Well, you can bundle it. You can do the annual thing, and I think it's like around $120. But
Oh.
whatever.
Well, but I mean, it's the stadium's in Tampa, right? So you'll be going to what, all 81?
So I'll try.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, I will say this though.
I know
I
you
went
went
on.
on Sunday.
I went this past Sunday for the the rubber match for the Rocky series, and look, I was pleasantly surprised. I had never been to Steinbrenner Field before for a spring training game. Not that I had a reason to, because it's the Yankees. They play there for spring training, but I was pleasantly surprised, and the whole experience there, watching baseball outside, no dome, was enjoyable. There was a nice breeze going through the stadium. Now it did get hot towards the end of the game, but that's the price you have to pay when you're playing baseball on the outside. But it was good. I mean, my friend and I brought my son, and and I went with my friend and his family. And the tickets that we got, which is a secret, is there's a third base rooftop area which you pay. Now, if you go on the Rays website, you're probably going to pay more. But if you go on SeatGeek or StubHub,
Hmm.
maybe a little bit before the game, if they're still available, you can probably get them for $30-$40, and it's all you can drink, all you can eat up there.
Yeah, they actually did I think it was Tuesday night's broadcast. Ryan Bass did a whole little
Yeah.
side segment during the game. They mentioned, I think, the Rays Rush tickets, that they release before every series. I guess some of them that they release are for
That area.
those areas. I think it's down the third base and
So where this is
first
at,
base
it's
too,
third base
at
line,
the
but
ends.
you have to go upstairs. It's like to the top, and it's like
Okay.
this top area which overlooks everything. The seats are great. But yeah, it's all you can drink, all you can eat.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's a steal.
yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely was.
yeah, he was talking about it on the broadcast. I was like, man, that looks like a good time.
Yeah. What's
I'm glad
also
to
great about it too is you can pretty much hear everything in the stadium too as well. So with the chants going on, there was some sell the team chants and
Mhm.
whatnot. It makes the baseball experience more intimate. So whatever they decide to do with putting the team in a new stadium, or if
Right.
they decide to keep the Trop, whatever happens, I think looking at this is okay. If this is how this is how the Rays really perform in a outside setting, let's kind of keep it at that model. Obviously, you want to expand the attendance level. I mean, 10,000, 11,000 is really small. But if you want to have a stadium outside where you can maybe put a retractable dome or a half dome, you can put in like 20, 25,000 seats and it'll still be nice. But I mean, being in there, you're right on top of everything. It was a great
Mhm.
experience. I'll definitely go. I thought I was going to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll go to X amount of games. I'm
Yeah,
probably going to go to more X amount of games now that my experience with Steinbrenner was actually pretty wonderful.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, the more intimate setting, I in that background of yours, I don't know if that was the most recent
I think
stadium
this
version
was,
or third, two or three stadiums ago, but that's been their plan the whole time.
yeah.
Whenever they had a new stadium concept, the actual field and stadium concept itself, with the exception of whatever the surrounding neighborhoods that they're talking about, creating, it's always designed to be an intimate baseball experience, right? Because I think they're just looking to have sold out crowds as opposed to packing 35,000 fans in a building,
Right.
40,000 fans. So I think they've always planned with the newer stadium to have a smaller capacity, but have that more intimate setting, which honestly, as a fan, I would, because the Trop holds, however many, 25,000 without the top part of the
Hmm.
seats open. And when it's full, it's plenty loud. So you're telling me if you create a stadium, build a stadium that's, similar capacity, maybe a little bit smaller or whatever, but it's constantly or consistently full, that's it'll be plenty loud. The environment will be plenty big. And you're seeing it now, even at Steinbrenner, the players have remarked about it, just in you being there. Obviously it's a great environment. Like people, it feels, I think Caballero had a comment that even with the reduced number of fans there, right, compared to what they would see at the Trop every night, knowing that the seats are all full, it has a much different effect,
Yep.
even if it's just 10,000 people compared to, 17,000 in a half empty stadium, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. I
so
mean, it's been working so far. They've had the 6 total sellouts so far.
yeah, 6.
So, and I think he's right. I mean, obviously the number of people going is less than what we're going to have the drop, but you can be louder with that X amount of people. If you're a sellout every single time, you can be a
Yeah,
loud sellout every single time because at the Trop it's a bigger stadium, so it's more spread out. I mean,
right.
with this stadium, it's on top of you, and you can. I mean, it was loud. I mean, definitely hearing from the telecast on TV, it was a loud like setting too. So I'm all for it, man. I think it's a great place to be. It's definitely going to show the city of Tampa like, hey, baseball is a viable commodity in this area. So whatever, Stu, get it done, sell the team, sell it to somebody's going to do it, whatever. So
Yeah,
moving on from
yeah.
stadium stuff. What are your thoughts have been so far the first week? I mean, with the exception of the Skeens game yesterday, which I think they could have pulled that out. I mean, they had their chances after he was pulled to win that game and take sweep the series. But other than that, thoughts on the race so far?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, series you should win against teams, obviously perceived that teams that are perceived to be towards the bottom of the league, right? It's kind of hard to know if some of these teams might surprise people, right? If you're seeing them at the very beginning of the season, but going into the year, the Rockies aren't expected to be anywhere near a contending team. The Pirates, outside of Skeens and O'Neill Cruz and Brian Reynolds, aren't a whole lot of talent at the moment, and they're dealing with some injuries. So, yeah, definitely was happy to see them come away with 2 series victories. I am pleasantly surprised. A couple things. So I'm pleasantly surprised with the offense. Um, I know that they haven't put up just, they haven't, I forget what the score was Sunday's game that you were at. Was it 6 or 7 runs they put up?
6.
6.
Yep.
And I think that's the most they've put up all year. Maybe they put up a 7 or 8 spot against the Pirates one night. I can't remember if
They
it was
did. They
another
put
6
7
spot.
against the Pirates on
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay. So, they've had some good games already offensively. I think the one of the few things is that, they had Meisner's home run on the opening day, but all they really had is Brandon Lau hitting a homer, a couple homers now. So the power hasn't been there as much, but they're still scoring runs, I think, at a clip that I'm happy with. I think the situational hitting's been pretty good. For example,
See, Drew, I would rather have that than the power. Like
right.
if they're kind of going back to that small ball mentality, I'm all
Yeah.
for it because you've got guys that are bunting and bunting
Yep.
successfully, and then
Putting the
the
pressure on the defense.
man gum. I mean, dude, the guy's ripping the cover off the ball, but like base hits, and that's the kind of Rays team that we've seen in the past. I mean, when they try to do the whole, hey, we're going to bring in power and try to
Logan
be this,
Morrison.
yeah, like this huge offensive juggernaut, it didn't really work
Right.
out. But I'm happy they're kind of going back to that identity of, hey, we may not have a lot of power in this team, but we can get runs across home plate. We can score runs by playing small ball, and
Well,
that's what I like to see.
the situation, yeah, the runners in scoring position, hitting, obviously, that's all we heard about in spring training. They were is a huge focus. So that's what I've been paying most attention to because honestly, I've had higher expectations this year with that because I know last year was so bad, but I also have always looked at it as it was bad luck for some. It wasn't, now they weren't a great offensive team, but I think that runners in scoring position, I think is much more like it can just kind of be one year, it just might not go your way.
Right.
And the other year, you might have the same team, and what do you know, your average is 80 points higher. We saw that from 23 to 24, knowing there were some pieces different, but like the core of the team was very much the same, except Wander. And it dropped off considerably. So now this year, I thought with how much focus they were putting on it, I just that was what I was really focused on myself going into the season. And I don't know what the average is at. I don't know what the numbers are, but just watching the games, I've been very pleased with how they've hit. The biggest moment, honestly, that stands out to me, it was yesterday in the losing effort. But Brandon Lau comes up. I believe they were down. We were down 3-1 or 4-1. I don't remember. We were losing, and Brandon Lau came up with one out, and it was DeLuca was on third, I believe, and it's against Skeens. And we've seen Brandon Lau time and time again come up in spots where he's probably feeling pressure, feeling like he's got to do something, and he's out on three pitches swinging at who knows what. And he fought off some pitches yesterday against Skeens, kept the bat going, and he had a soft swing, pulled the grounder to the second baseman, got the run in. Like I've never been so happy to see Brandon Lau ground out because I just was so ready for him to strike out, especially against Paul Skeens. So for him to come up there and do his job, right? Like runners in scoring position average doesn't get affected there. It actually is negatively impacted, but it gets the run in, and that's what mattered because when you get a situation like that against Paul Skeens, you've got to convert.
Yeah.
And he got the run in. And for Brandon Lau to do that, I was like, okay, we're operating at a higher level right now in this situational hitting aspect. So honestly, from that, I was really impressed. The pitching was lights out. I know Pepio was battling a little bit yesterday, and he wasn't sharp really from the get go. It seemed like he was walking guys and um, wasn't as sharp as he was on opening day. But I mean, all the starters that first time through were incredible.
Shane
Zach
Baz, man.
Littell, yeah, Shane Baz, Zach Littell pitched great. I mean, the game they lost against the Rockies was
Yeah.
that one frustrated me way more than the Paul Skeens one because
Well,
they hit
that
the ball
one,
so hard against the Rockies and they
I
had
mean,
nothing go their way.
when you have 12
Um,
hits, you should score at least 1 or 2 runs.
and
Maybe
they had
maybe
so
more
many.
than that.
Well, they had so many hard hits that got caught
Yeah.
by the defenders or not, knocked down, or they would have bounces off the wall that held what should have been doubles to singles, and it just nothing. That whole game just felt like they were battling uphill, um, and it just couldn't ever get anything to go their way. So that one, I mean, the Paul Skeens loss, you don't. Every loss bugs me. I get bugged by every loss that the Rays has. I really will try to sit there and think like, what's a scenario where the Rays could lose that I would be like, you know what, hey, that's okay. We'll get them next time. And maybe it's a situation where the Rays are like very clearly a playoff team and like their record is really, really good. And it's like, okay, well, it doesn't really matter that they lost. But yesterday's loss was about as close at this, at a where they're kind of
I
battling to see where they fall. Like that was about as close to a loss that I feel like I can live with
I was
as
expecting that because
possible.
going against him, and I was texting a couple of friends of mine. I was like, you know what? I'm just glad they got a couple hits off him. Like I'm
Yeah.
glad they didn't get no hit by him. And the
It's the
game
little
was
things.
so little, and the game was almost winnable going into
Very much so.
into later innings after they pulled him after they
They,
pulled Skeens. So they could have won that game.
They would
They
have
could have
matched.
won
They
it.
would have matched.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have matched it. Had the bullpen. There was a couple times where you're like, they can just hold the Pirates from scoring here. It would be, you felt like would be a huge difference there, and they just couldn't. It seemed like the Pirates, scored another run here, another run there, and it got to be to a point where it was like, okay, we're just going to take lightning in a bottle, or, one big hit to kind of send us over the edge. But yeah, I mean, Paul Skeens probably the best pitcher in baseball, maybe yeah, best young pitcher in baseball for sure.
He can't wait. He
And
can't wait to get out of Pittsburgh, man.
I know, but like he's probably, like you said, top two or three pitcher in baseball. And then what O'Neill Cruz has a home run that was, a really impressive home run for one. And he had another big hit late in the game, scored, I think, another insurance run. Like, so you're telling me that the Pirates beat us with Paul Skeens
Hmm.
and O'Neill Cruz, their two best players, like making
I'm okay
plays.
with that.
Like it is what it is. And I mean, like you said, the little things like the Brandon Lau situation I mentioned, Jake Mangum going up there and uh, getting that hit off Paul Skeens in his first at bat. Like guys like Jonathan Aranda and I think there was another one, maybe Johnny DeLuca, uh, working longer at bats against Paul Skeens. Like those kinds of things with our younger hitters, like I feel like in the past, the Rays would go up against a dominant pitcher like that, and it would just be, 3, 4 pitches, you're gone. It'd
What
be he's in the sixth inning and it's 40 pitches. They worked him, and I know he still went seven, but for being as dominant of a pitcher as he is, I thought that there were a lot of little things that the Rays
what
cling
I'm
to as
what I'm seeing
positives.
what I'm seeing a lot about this offense is they're being, I want to say, too aggressive, but they're being aggressive just enough where it's working.
Yeah,
And that's really never happened before, because I mean I watched over the weekend where there's a lot of, they're taking they're swinging at a lot of first pitch strikes. I saw a lot of that, which kind of frustrates me sometimes, because you want to, as a hitter, especially the first couple innings, you kind of want to read the pitcher first before like really getting really hyper aggressive on him. But
right.
you know, with this offense, they are getting aggressive against those power pitchers, which is I'm kind of liking it right now. I like the approach that they're doing right now at the plate. Now, are there some guys that kind of need to pick up the slack? Yeah. Obviously, there's a couple of names that, Taylor Walls, which Taylor Walls is just a stopgap until Ha-Sung Kim comes aboard and, takes over his job and everything. But are you concerned a little bit by Yandy Diaz? I mean, um, he's kind of slugging along, but, I think that's Yandy. But I think there's been a lot of chatter on social media about, well, he hasn't really been hitting anything and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I'm not concerned about it just yet. I mean, he did this last year where he had a terrible first half, and then the second half, he really turned it on. I mean, if this is more of the same, then, it's more of the same.
Yeah. No, I'm not worried about him. I mean, I think in the first weekend, I want to say he had 5 or 6 balls. Maybe not that many. At least
There
three or
were a
four
few where it was kind of like
that.
out of his control, where he could have had a couple.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he crushed him.
Yeah.
Hard liner this way, something out in the gap in the outfield, and
You could see
the
it on his
defense.
face too. You
Yeah,
could
the
see it on
defense
his
made some
face.
plays. So like his average is 154 right now. Not great, but and his OBP, all that stuff, like
It's not Danny
it's not
Jansen.
walking.
It's not Danny Jansen bad.
Well, I mean, it's certainly not what we're accustomed to with him. I'm not worried at all. I mean, he's had some bad luck. I mean, I don't I don't really anticipate it being. I mean, he was off to a horrible start last year,
Mhm.
and I forget what his final average was. I mean, he finished up with 281, right? Like, obviously down from his previous year where he won the batting title, but like, I mean, he was. I'm looking right now. April, March, he hit 220 with 1 home run. So I mean, I'm not really worried at this point. It was one or two series. He
I
had
I'm
a
not
couple
worried
hits.
either.
He's in the ball opposite field. He had some bad luck. I'm not. I don't. And like I look at the lineup. I mean, Danny Jansen hasn't done much. Does he have a hit yet?
I don't think so.
Um, yeah. I mean, Curtis Mead's
Um,
0 for 10. Um,
that I think we can. I think that experiment is done. Look,
well,
I look,
it's funny.
I get it. I mean, he had a great spring, but yeah, I knew it wasn't going to translate into the majors. I just knew it. Okay, wait, Danny Jansen has one hit.
He's
No,
got one hit.
no, he has 0 hits. I'm sorry, he has 0
Zero
hits.
hits. Okay.
Yeah,
He made some great plays early in the Rocky series though from behind the plate. So
yeah.
listen, I'm not worried about Danny Jansen. He's a pro, and
Listen, if you can continue to
he'll
throw
get
out
some
guys
homers.
like you're doing, I'm okay with that. But when it comes to
And
Curtis Mead,
he'll
now
pop
it's
15 to 20 homers.
with Curtis Mead, it's like, okay, guys, we've tried it. I think we need to cut him loose or send him down to the minors. I just don't.
He's got another option.
Then you
So
got to
they're
option him
looking
back down and bring
pushing him
somebody up.
down. Yeah, I just think they
Bring up
talked about.
Bring up Eloy Jimenez. He'll be fine.
Yeah, I I mean it's just in that bats. It's just interesting because he gets the opening day start. Given they were going against a lefty, but they put him in the leadoff, which it's funny because that was really interesting to me. Like it was one of the more shocking things I'd seen from a lineup
Yeah,
that the
I
Rays
saw
had
it and
put
I was
together in
like,
a
all
while.
right, that's intriguing.
Well,
Having a lead
Topkin
off.
put
All
in
right.
as his projected lineup the night before, and usually he knows exactly what it's going to be. So
Mm-hmm.
when I saw that, I was like, I don't know what is going on. So I was like, man, they're really, going from like last man in to like leaning in hard to Curtis Mead. But it's funny because I don't think if there's a lefty coming up now, I don't know if he bats leadoff again. I don't. It just seems like that was like a weird, like, all right, we're gonna do it and just ride the hot hand. And now that he's 0 for 10, I think you probably see him back down at the 6, 7 area. But Yeah, I mean, they got to give him a longer leash. That's the thing is, with like Jonathan Ronda, right? He had this great minor league pedigree and then came up and would contribute here and there, but he just never got consistent opportunities. And now, uh, he came on so strong at the second half of last year when he was getting those consistent opportunities, and he's on the strong side of the platoon, so he's going to get more opportunities to play. But like now, I feel like he's come in with a whole. I mean, I think he's a very big part of this lineup when he's in there, and they certainly bat him high up in the order, and that reflects their thinking on him. So with Curtis, I don't know. I just feel bad if he's like going to get these, you know, at bats here and there, like a pinch hit opportunity here, or one or two starts a week, and then
Yeah, but Drew, when is enough?
he's
When
not.
is enough though?
I don't know, but it's tough because he's not going to give you enough in the field that if you're not going to force him in there against right-handed pitching all that often. So it's just tough. I mean, I think I've always kind of felt like I shouldn't say always, I should say in the last year or so, I felt like he's a good trade candidate.
Yeah, but the
They
the
just
value of him
hearing,
right now is not going to be great.
I know they
There's
could
no
get
trade
somebody
value
for
right
him.
now.
They could get somebody for him that
Yeah,
would
you could
contribute
probably
at
get like a
3 points
low
on it.
hand reliever for him or something.
But
It's kind of like it's kind of like what we're at with Taylor Walls. I mean, he's great defensively, but he's terrible at the plate.
hey, listen, I will say I'm not the biggest Taylor Walls fan, but I think he's been I think he's been a valuable part thus far. He's made so many great defensive plays already this season at short. So I think he's provided a lot of value there. And he's had some good timely hitting. Now his average isn't great, but he's been walking more. His OBP's like I think 330 something. So as long as that on base percentage is in the 300s, to me, that like not to be all Moneyball on you, but Billy Bean, Oakland A's, but if his on base percentage is in the 300s like it is right now, and he's able to maintain that, I mean, I
Well,
know Rays
he
fans
better
aren't going to want to
maintain
hear
it
it,
if he wants to
Rays
keep
fans,
some kind of job with the Rays,
but
especially
see, you know what?
When Kim comes back up.
Well, when Kim comes to the team, that is a terrible sentence to try and say all the time. When Son Kim, I can't believe
That's our clip of the week, Drew.
when he arrives to the team, when he comes back from the injured list, I don't think people assume that Taylor Walls is going to go off this team.
No,
I
I
mean,
don't assume
I
that at
think
all
I think
because
that he
you want to have that depth at shortstop, but
I think that he could get if anything he would be traded to a team that would need like dare I say the Dodgers as a team that
no,
would be like, hey, listen, no, I'm just saying
they have
because Mookie.
too many people.
Well, but
They have too many
they'd be like,
Rays ex players.
well, that's what I'm saying exactly. So they would say, hey, Taylor, you come over play shortstop for us. We just need a really great defensive shortstop.
Then I want one of their
And
pitchers
well, I'm just saying, like I could see that happening as opposed to like Taylor being cut
or
or
DFA'd or
whatever,
whatever.
because he can be cost controlled, right? Because he signed
Yeah.
that deal for this year and next year. So, um, but I also think that the Rays are going to keep like if Kim comes onto the team and he makes he's starting at short, right? Like Taylor's going to be the backup infielder at third, short, second, back to where he was when Wander was here. So I think it's somebody like Caballero or Curtis Mead or somebody like that. If we have a right-handed bat that's a little bit more redundant, or even maybe a Richie Palacios could get sent down. It depends on how the performance.
All right. Oh, it looks like you froze there.
He just gets so much criticism that I feel like I gotta stick up for him, and I feel like he's
Listen,
doing all right. So
I'm okay with him
and
being out in the field because he's a good shortstop. But
he's very good
when it comes to being in the lineup,
stuff.
it's frustrating.
I
So
bet
I
you
would
were
rather
I bet you were thrilled when you were going to the game on Sunday and saw him batting sixth or fifth, whatever it was.
I was
You're like, oh
super
my gosh,
thrilled.
I can't believe I'm going to this game watching Taylor Walls bat in a key part
Listen,
of the lineup.
When Lau started off with a 2-run shot, I was like, all right, we're gonna be okay because
Yeah.
the pitching's gonna take care of
And they had
most of it.
such bad luck the day before that,
Yeah,
you knew it was going to turn for the good the next day.
yeah.
Um, I will say the biggest thing, I think the biggest storyline with the Rays through the first two series here is the Durham guys that came up, right? Like
Hmm.
Meisner and Magnum. And I know we touched on Magnum a little bit, but like really both of them, with Josh Lowe going down, that sucked. I that just sucked so bad. And I know it's going to be probably what, like
It's
June.
gonna be a couple months, but and I wanted to ask you about that because a question came up. I was a guest on the Sports Web on Monday,
Hmm.
and that was a question that came up is like, what are the Rays gonna do with him?
Yeah,
Because now this is the second season in a row where you're having the same injury where I think he said it was like worse than the one last year.
yeah,
So it's
grade
like,
two.
okay, what do the Rays do with him going forward? Do they, you know, keep him there and see if he can stay healthy for at least maybe the second half, and then, you know, pray next year that he stays healthy again, or is it like, okay, you're kind of a question mark or a liability when it comes to being healthy, and do they do something
Yeah.
with him? And which sucks
I,
because we've seen what he can do when he's fully healthy,
yeah.
which is
I,
hit the crap out of the ball.
yeah. And listen, no one knows what the Rays are thinking when it comes to extending players or signing players or trading players, waiving players. Um, but you look at what his contract's at now. He's still making the minimum, 775. I wish
Hmm.
that was my salary as a
Me too.
minimum.
Me too.
Um, and then our year one is next year, right? So his salary is going to jump a little bit. I think, in my opinion, and I could be way off base, I have no way of knowing, but like I wouldn't be surprised if the Rays try to sign him to a deal, right? You have a guy who has the potential, like we saw in 23, right, to be a 2020, 2030 guy. He's average to above average in the field, and he's somebody that is a very valuable part of this lineup when he is healthy. Um, you
Yeah,
have
but
a
is
guy.
that is that
It's also
value is that value enough to give him a contract because of the
well,
injury history? Because the injury history with me is, okay,
right,
you haven't played a full season since your first season, what, 3 years ago,
right,
and the rest of the time you've been injured, like the rest of the way. So for them to give him a deal, it's got to
right.
be like when you come back, you need to be there the rest of the way. You need to be producing the rest of the way when you come back. If you come back healthy, because he
Well,
could
I
have
think
he could have a setback as soon as he comes back.
yeah, he could. And that's why I mean I've never had an oblique injury, so I can imagine they hurt like crazy. And it's really frustrating. And I don't know how you prevent oblique injuries, so that's the other frustrating part. It's
You
like,
can't. That's the sad part
I
about it.
know. So I don't know, but and maybe they say, well, listen, we can't bank on him enough. So I'm just thinking, what, he's someone that's capable of producing, to being a valuable part of the lineup, producing a 2030 season, right? So I think you could look at it and say, well, hey, listen, we're going to go into arbitration with them. Uh, he's obviously dealing with injuries at the last couple of years. We know what he's like when he's healthy. We're going to say, hey, Josh, here's guaranteed money, so you don't have to worry about the arbitration stuff because obviously, but his value will have taken a hit, right, because of the injuries. So I'm thinking it's an opportunity for them to say, for them to jump on the opportunity to sign him for a couple years at lower than market value that he would maybe get as through arbitration, because of the injury history, right? Like you see,
Mhm.
they've done it with the pitchers where they know they're going to be rehabbing, for a year, and then they sign, but they sign them for a 2 or 3 year deal with all that baked in, so that they don't have to go through the arbitration process, that deals with them having a year where they didn't perform at all because of an injury. Or I'm just saying that there's an opportunity. I think that they could sign him for a couple years and really get him through the rest of his prime because he's 27 now. He'll be age 28 in 2026. So I don't think that he's going anywhere personally. Now, if they just can't keep him healthy at all, and then when he finally is back, it's just he's not the same or whatever for whatever reason, then a year or two from now, then obviously I think that's a different conversation. But I don't know. I mean, I think it sucks that he's not going to be on the team for a little bit. I really I would have bet, you know, that he would have been the difference maker this year, and he still very much could be. But him and Brandon were the two guys I was looking at a lot this year to take a big step forward. especially in
Yeah.
Steinbrenner. And so for him to
Yep.
be out right at the beginning like this was really disappointing. But Meisner coming up and Mangum.
Mangum.
Yeah,
Trust me,
Mangum.
I said Magnum for a while too. I
I
was like,
know.
it's Mangum. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mangum. Jake Mangum and Cameron Meisner. I think they're looking great. I mean, it's a bit of a honeymoon period right now, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like
I was just about to
I
ask you
saw
that too,
somebody
because
I saw
how
somebody
long
compared there's
how
like a
long is the
Linsanity run.
like how long is the production going to last? Because the schedule coming up, we're going away playing Texas for 3, and then coming back and playing the Angels, and then at home against the Angels, the Braves, which I'm
Mhm.
so surprised how bad the Braves are doing, and
Yeah.
then Boston comes into town, and then New York comes into town for 4 games. So look, ride the hot hand as you can,
There's three or
and
four sweeps right there.
yeah, the
Yeah.
thing is with them, it's like the pitching they faced hasn't been the best except for Skeens. So it's
No.
like we've got some quality pitching coming up, so we'll see how they go.
I
I'm
think
loving
that
it so far, man.
oh yeah, it's great. And it's brought a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
They've been the most exciting players outside of, everybody I think gets excited about Junior and then obviously Brandon's home runs he's hit a couple times here, but they brought the most excitement to the roster and to this team at this point offensively. I would tell you if I have to pick one, I think I have more faith in Mangum being legit and somebody that can continue to contribute throughout this season. Because you just look at the pedigree, right? Like he's somebody he won the batting title last year at AAA. He's hit at every single level. He
And he's an old
was
man. He's 29
yeah,
years old.
yeah, the in college, you heard a million times on these broadcasts, he's the SEC all times hit leader. Like the guy just hits, and you've seen it how he approached. I mean, I think on Tuesday, his RBI double, 2 RBI double, he just let the ball travel and he just smacked it down the third baseline. Like the guy can hit the ball. I mean, he
Yeah.
knows how to go up there. And he's fouling off like he's extending at bats. He's a tough out at the plate.
He
Even the
reminds me
strikeout.
of a bigger version of Ichiro.
Yeah. I mean, even the strikeout that he had against Paul Skeens was a foul tip that like
Yeah.
almost wasn't even caught by the catcher. So, I mean, he's a tough out no matter. So I would, and the fact that he's a switch hitter and like, I don't know, and he's a great speed threat too. I know Meisner can run some too. I think I would probably pick Mangum to stick more if I had to choose one. So like that was actually like gonna it wasn't just a hot streak, but like they are going to be a consistent producer this year. Um, but honestly, Meisner's performed well in the minors as well. And like a lot of times it was these guys, they just weren't getting the opportunities because the Rays were opting for more defensive guys, right, in the outfield, at least in center field. And I believe that's where both of them play predominantly. I could be wrong. I believe Mangum was primarily a center fielder last year. But you have guys like Johnny DeLuca and Jose Siri, like they clearly were saying, "Hey, we really value the defense right here." And so for them to finally get their shot and show what they can do, like I mean, I think you can see it in Kevin Cash batting Mangum fourth on Tuesday and then third on Thursday or Wednesday. I mean, or whatever that was, right? Like so, it's a great story. Like they're Mangum especially like it's classic like small white guy
Yeah, he's
trope,
only
right?
6 foot. He's like
But
6 foot,
like,
190 pounds. He's like
he's like hustling. He's doing all the little things, right? But he really is. I mean, I feel like that's like a basketball stereotype you deal with, but he's just doing like he's just hustling down the line, like he's doing all the little things. It seems like you can tell he cares, and he's intense. I mean, he fired me up after I've seen him do 2 interviews. And he did the post game on Bally, or excuse me, FanDuel, and on Tuesday, and then or on Monday, excuse me, and then on Tuesday, I think MLB Network had him on as well. And like the guy's just intense, and you can tell he cares. He's all for like he's just focused and like laser focused all the time.
he's
And
becoming definitely a fan favorite for the team, and
yeah, he's a
the
fan
opportunity is
favorite.
there. And for his
he's
last
thrown,
15, man, it's going pretty well.
he's thrown in raise up at the end too on every interview. Like
He gets it. I
the
mean, he
dude,
gets
yeah,
it.
he gets
He
it. He
gets it.
really does.
He gets
He
it.
really does.
He
And
gets it. And
that's
that's what
we haven't had enough of that.
I'm pleasantly happy that he gets it because he's one of those guys. He's all in on the team. That's the type of
Well,
mentality I want, especially a guy that's coming in as a fill-in for right now. And to be honest with you, Josh Lowe comes back. It's like, well, Mangum's still like doing this. It's like, sorry, Josh.
I think somebody like Richie would be in trouble with that, or
Yeah.
one of the guys. I feel like right now Meisner and Mangum are kind of playing.
It's the M&M show.
They're the competition for each other right now in terms of who's going to stay when Richie Palacios comes back, right? Because he's going to come back in a couple weeks, and he's going to come back and take one of their spots.
I would see Meisner going back down.
I think so. I mean, I think there's just more opportunities for Mangum to be a valuable part of the team.
Yep.
With being a switch hitter, he's hitting better. I mean, but honestly, I hope they make it hard on the Rays.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good problem to have, which we talked about before the season. It's a good problem to have this much depth with guys coming in and producing. So
we'll see. I mean, they're going to Texas. I mean, they're playing, DeGrom, I think, over the weekend, and
but
they're going to get their.
DeGrom's not the same, man.
I know, but they never play well in Texas. So I'm just hoping they can at least get. They haven't won in the last 2 years there.
If we come out winning that series 2-1, I'll be happy about it.
Oh, I will be thrilled.
Look, it's a different team. It's a different team.
They got a lot of bad omens that they have to fight against this weekend. They're playing on the Apple TV tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, that's right. We
on
don't
Friday.
do well on
They never play well on Apple TV. Although Tyler Alexander almost pitched like a perfect game on Apple TV last year. And then, but yeah, they never play well on Apple TV. And then they haven't won. I think they literally haven't won a game since 2022 in Texas.
Fingers crossed.
So,
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining in to another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Media Network. Make sure you go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind. Hit the subscribe and notification bell. We'll see you next time on the Rays Rewind podcast. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with L. Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.